This is Viva Fry.
I'm Dr. Peter McCullough.
This is Tom Luongo.
This is Chuck Prodnick.
This is Alex Kreiner.
Hey, this is Brad Wall.
This is JP Sears.
Hi, this is Frank Peretti.
This is Tammy Peterson.
This is Danielle Smith.
This is James Lindsay.
Hey, this is Brett Kissel, and you're listening to the Shaun Newman Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast, folks. How's everybody doing today? Did you go to the Pierre Poilievre rally in Edmonton? If you did, shoot me a text. I would love to see a picture or two from there. Maybe we can post it online. I was getting questioned if I was heading down to Edmonton, but on this side of things, we had hockey, piano, a whole bunch of things going on. So I didn't make it there, but I saw some different videos coming in from it and knew some people heading that way. So if you're one of them, I'd love to get some pictures and different things sent this way if you were in attendance. Now, before we get to today's podcast, let's talk a little junk silver. That's we're talking older circulation coins, dimes, quarters, half dollars, and dollars from back before our government debased our money by removing silver from the coinage. We are just 20 days away from the election, and I don't know. I, for one, am, I like being a little bit maybe prepared, maybe at times a little over-prepared. Either way, there's deals on right now with this feature. All you got to do is text or email Graham for more details on it, or you can ask any other question you may have around buying, selling, storing, or using your retirement accounts to invest in precious metals. Just go to silvergoldbull.com.ca, and any purchase for questions, go down to Graham, but for everything they offer, go to those two. And any purchase you make, just reference SNP. Another way you can reference SNP is, if you're getting gold and silver, maybe you want to buy a firearm or two, some bullets, some optics, accessories. You get the point. And you can use the code SNP on any Profit River purchase. So that's online, over the phone, in person. Make sure to reference that. You're entered into a $100 gift card each month. And the primary guy for all you fine listeners is Joel. And he is down in the show notes, snp at profitriver.com. You're going to bypass the regular phone staff. You're going to go right to the expert on their phone and internet sales manager, and that's Joel. He knows his stuff. He'll get you where you need to go. And just a reminder to use the SMP code while doing that. You can head to profitriver.com. They are the major retailer of firearms, optics, and accessories, and they serve all of us here in Canada. RecTech Power Products. For over the past 20 years, RecTech Power Products have been committed to excellence in the power sports industry. They got some cool stuff going on in there. With the warmth going on this last couple days, shall I say? Weeks. Come on, Shaun. I was in there talking to Ryan, the manager of the store, just last week, and we got walking around on their golf carts. I mean, all the golfing guys are licking their chops about getting out on the links here, pretty soon, hopefully. Hopefully the sun stays out, and looks like we're going to hit some double digits. It's going to be super nice. And you might be thinking, I can't wait to hit the links. You should stop in and see some of the golf carts they have handy. Holy Dinah. And wouldn't you know it, a group of them are made in Wainwright, Alberta, which I thought was super cool too. So stop in today to RecTech. They got a whole lot more than just golf carts. They got boats, Lund boats. They got the Sea-Doo boats as well. The pontoon boats, the Sea-Doo style pontoon boats, which I'm told have sold out, so they're ordering more. They're super cool looking anyways. They got a ton going on there, side by sides, just on and on and on it goes. If you haven't stopped in the west side of Lloydminster to RecTech, you really should. Tell Ryan that Shaun sent you, and go take a look at the golf carts. It's a good time of year, folks. Sun's shining. We're thinking about deck season, getting on the lake at some point, golfing, all these fun things when the sun starts to come out. And RecTech can hook you up with a bunch of different things. So go to rectechpowerproducts.com, or if you're in the Lloydminster area, stop in to RecTech on the west side of Lloydminster. Planetcom. Have you seen the new website? Oh, baby. We got a new podcast website, the ShaunNewmanPodcast.com. Stop in and see Planetcom's handiwork so you can you can see what they're dealing with. Anyone looking to get a website built, stop in today stop in and take a look at it. For over 22 years, Planetcom has been here to boost your productivity by proactively managing every aspect of your IT infrastructure, both in-house and in the cloud, and this ensures you do not get too tangled up in the technology to get everything done. I'm talking about my website because they just finished it, and it looks sharp, like very, very, very sharp. Very, very happy with it. planetcom.ca. Head over there and take a look at what they can do for you. Substack, free to subscribe to. Man alive, this past weekend, we did Kinnersley twice on, 2 games in Kinnersley Sunday, then race back for ball tryouts, blah, 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 blah. What I'm trying to say is the week in review got released a little late, but Substack, that's where it's free to subscribe to, and you're going to get the week in review for paid subscribers. You're getting the debriefs off of every guest that comes on the podcast, so there's a couple different options there. The new studio here, hopefully approaching sooner than later. We're looking for skills, labor, materials, money, and we got a value for value wall, the legacy wall. We're putting your name, your company name, logo on it. You got questions about that, shoot me a text. All right. If you're listening or watching on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Rumble, X, make sure to subscribe and leave a review. If you haven't bought your tickets for the Cornerstone Forum, we are now 32 days away. 32 days away until we're in Calgary, Alberta. What are you waiting for, folks? All right. That's down in the show notes, by the way. Cornerstone Forum, or all over my social media. Let's get on to that tale of the tape. She's a Canadian politician and lawyer serving as an independent MLA in the Legislative Assembly of British Columbia. I'm talking about Dallas Brodie, so buckle up. Here we go. Welcome to the Shaun Newman podcast. Today I'm joined by Dallas Brodie. Ma'am, thanks for hopping on.
Thank you, Shaun, for having me.
You've been all over the news headlines, but before we get to any of that, I'm curious who you were before all this, before you entered the political realm. Just a little bit about your backstory before we get into, probably what you never thought would be the Dallas Brodie calling card. Sorry to make light of the issue, but I mean, if you search your name now, a certain story is going to come up, a certain narrative is going to come up.
Yeah.
Who was Dallas before you entered into politics? Just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so born and raised in Vancouver, went away to the United States. I went to Princeton University for my undergrad and then law school at U of T. Practiced law in Vancouver for a long time. I did about 6 years of corporate and securities and real estate work. And then I went out on my own, sort of seeking a little bit more connection with humanity, and had a legal aid criminal defense practice for about 7 years. And I specialized in young offenders, and that was an amazing experience. After that time, there was a big change in the way the legal aid system was functioning out here, and I decided to go back to school for a bit. I was going to take a break from law, and I went into, I took a broadcast journalism course, did about 7 years in broadcast journalism, a little bit on air, and then producing both TV and radio. And then after that, money was lousy, couldn't get where I wanted to go with that, but I went back into law, and I became an arbitrator for the last 10 years of what I'd call my legal career. And I was basically it's called the residential tenancy branch in British Columbia. It's where you deal with landlord-tenant disputes. And I was doing 4 hearings a day for 10 years. And then, I just, at the end of 2016, I just decided it was time to focus on my kids, be a mom. I have a small business I run as well. And so I got into politics sort of at during the mandates, things were going really crazy in Vancouver, and a group of women and I got together and started a group called Save Our City, Vancouver. The city was looking like a mess. The drug addiction and the homeless encampments were just ballooning. It was crazy. And we successfully got on the air a little bit in Vancouver, trying to make a mark, pushing back against this sort of the nonstop push for drug consumption sites in downtown Vancouver and that kind of thing. And in the course of all that, I started meeting other people in the swim in that same idea, and met up with some conservatives. And then there was a by-election in the place where I lived, and a friend of mine called, and he was involved in the party, in the conservative movement. And he said, "Why don't you run?" And I was thinking, well, okay, but I've never done this before. They said, "Well, you won't win, you don't have a hope, but we're just announcing that the Conservative Party of British Columbia is back, and you will be a placeholder basically to say we're going to take a run at this stronghold in the center of Vancouver. It's a riding that bridges three neighborhoods, Dunbar, Kerrisdale, and Shaughnessy. And so I ran, and of course I didn't win. I was up against the then leader of the BC Liberal Party, Kevin Falcon, and he won the by-election. And then 2 years later, I said, if you want me to be a candidate, I'll do it, but I don't have to. And they said, yeah, let's do it. And the rest is history. I got elected, and now here I am. So I'm a brand new politician, learning the ropes, and that's basically who I am.
If you don't mind, going back, you mentioned Princeton, U of T, and then you jumped to defending young offenders. I think that's if I wrote that down correctly. Is that
Yes.
right?
Well,
When
I
you say,
did first, I did the corporate work. I did a lot of corporate work for a while, like long hours, working every weekend, every night for about 6 or 7 years. And then I was doing some volunteer work at the time at a youth prison in Vancouver, helping. Actually, I was visiting an Indigenous boy. I visited him 2 hours a week, and then I ended up teaching cooking classes at the youth prison it's located in Burnaby, British Columbia. And there was a lawyer there, a man talking to a bunch of kids one night, and I said to someone, "What's he doing?" And they said, "That's a lawyer." I'm like, "That's a lawyer?" Because I was in the corporate world, and I was fascinated. I thought, wow, that looks like a lot more fun type of law than what I'm doing. And so I went down and started volunteering at Legal Aid, thinking, I think I can do this and still make a living. So I made the leap, and I left the corporate world, and got a little office and just started and learned the ropes and learned how to become a criminal lawyer.
well, I'm curious. Defending young offenders, what did that teach you? Because you're seeing essentially children. I mean, I know,
It's
right? Like I don't know what would the age range of that be? Like how young to how old?
12 to 18. So
So
well, actually 12 to 17, once they turn 18, they're officially adults and they're into the adult system. I preferred working with the youth. There was a lot of hope still for these young kids, and I preferred the hopefulness of that to the adult clients that I dealt with. I did do a little bit of that at the beginning, and I quickly realized I preferred dealing with the young kids, because a lot of it was just trying to help them get through the system and not get too badly damaged in the process, and working with them and their families and figuring out how to just teach them, like, don't keep going down this road. We're gonna make it through. And the vast majority of them just go through a bad patch and then get out the other end and don't end up going to adult court and adult jail. But there was the 5% that had really, really tough childhoods, tough backgrounds and everything. They were going to graduate right through to adult crime for sure.
uh, I don't know. I'm trying to like in my brain. I'm like, was that a hard thing to do, or was it that like because like you know, I was just saying to you before we started. I got young kids. I got one sitting here
Yeah.
beside me, and I'm like, to try and represent children who have made poor choices from staying out of like you look down that road, and folks, that is a rough road. We got to try and pull you back a little this way, and there's hope over here. Just come this way. And I from what the numbers you're saying, or I'm gathering, 95% of the time, or 95% of the cases, maybe they edge closer to like let's go down a little hopeful road, and then there's just 5% of cases they come from really mixed up backgrounds that are pretty tough to probably hear and try and help. And I don't know, like to me, I'm like to do that for that many years. I'm wondering like was that enjoyable or was it like depressing to see what part of to deal with that part of society?
Okay, so I have to say that after a while, uh, you're dealing with so many kids who are in such trouble that it does get a little bit depressing, and you start wondering where all the kids are who are doing okay and doing well in school. And uh, yes, after a while, it takes a toll on you, which is partly why when the system was changing and they were moving to public defenders instead of independent lawyers, I thought maybe it's time for a break. I was in jails a lot, in lockups, talking to families and dealing, some of the crimes were really, really bad. So, with terrible physical damage to the victims and, but like, yes, it's hard to do that. But I also found that there were some cases that just lit up my life, and there were young people who really, really did well. And I have one case where there was a young guy who had just gotten started breaking into cars because he was sort of in the idle hands or the devil's workshop case, like after school. Mom was busy. She was single mom. She wasn't able to afford to get him into soccer or something after school. And I considered those hours between 3 and 6 to be the most dangerous for kids who are starting to not do great in school. And after school, they don't have a sport to go to. And this young guy, he got in the classic cycle of did a crime that's maybe breaking into cars, which isn't great, but it's not as most serious. And then they'd get a probation order against them, and then they breach their probation. And then you talk to them and they breach their probation again. And before you know it, they're now going to jail for breach of probation because they breached it 3 times. So they got warning after warning after warning. And so one fellow, he went through all this, and I knew he was smart. And a couple of years later, I was walking through a building in downtown Vancouver, like a shopping mall area, and here comes this kid, and he's got security tags on, tool belts. He said to his friend, "That's my lawyer," and it was such an amazing feeling. It still gives me a great feeling, and there he was. He's an apprentice now. He's moving up. He's become a full-blown electrician, and he made it through. And I had a few success stories like that. And I have to say those things mattered a lot to me. And I really cared about these kids, got to know their families. And I did feel sorry for the ones who had such tragic lives at home, that the parents were such bad role models, such terrible situations, that it was truly devastating to watch. But
Sitting on this side, one of the I don't know. I delve into some very difficult topics, and I have some different people from all walks of life on here, and you start to pick up maybe trends or like things to well, don't go down that road. And one of them has been honestly divorce. I'm like, it doesn't mean that you're a bad human being if you get divorced. Just it opens up your life to the government trying to step in, and then if you allow the government in, well, I mean, literally, there's a lot of things that can happen there, but you're opening up a realm where the government just doesn't need to be a part of it, in my opinion. So one of the things I've really, I don't know, told myself since I started this is like, thick or thin, find a way through instead of allowing, differences to separate a couple, essentially, because then, that opens up different things for the kids. You mentioned single mom and different things like that. Did you start to see trends like that resolved, strengthened your resolve in different parts of your life? You're like, I can't, I got to make sure that, you mentioned 3 to 6. So I assume you had your kids in sports or in something to keep them busy. Was there other things you picked up from that time in your life?
Yes. Kids with learning disabilities, like my kids have dyslexia. And so a lot of kids who are struggling in school, if they don't get the help they need at the right time and they're not doing well in school, like I really noticed that can really discourage them, and they are more prone to get in trouble, and probably even more so with boys. I probably dealt with more boys in my practice than girls, but the boys get really discouraged when they're not doing well in school. And what they want to do is try and be successful in another way. And they start hanging out with the other kids who are having trouble. And then they find the kids who are just hanging out after school. So I guess what I learned is make sure your kids have the help they need if they're struggling with any aspect of their academics, and keep an eye on that, and don't let them get discouraged. And then the other piece is that I really, with my kids, it was like, I don't care what you're doing, but you can't just come home after school and not do something. Even if it's a couple days a week, you've got to have an activity going, because that also gives them a different silo of friends. So if the friends aren't working out at school, they'll have friends at their dance class or their sewing class or their art class or whatever it is that they're doing, for boys on their soccer team, or athletics are amazing for giving kids that outlet. So I guess that was something I really noticed. Keep an eye on any problems that are developing academically, and then ensure that they have some activity. Doesn't have to be top of the varsity team or whatever. It just has to be something where they've got another set of friends and different inputs. Yeah.
I appreciate that. I don't know. I don't know about my audience, but I'm always looking for like, when I hear where you've worked, I'm like, oh man, there must have been some lessons come out of that because that would not be an easy job. It would have its serious highs, but it would have some pretty tough lows as well. I don't know if anything could prepare you for, getting elected, right?
Yeah.
Woo, we're elected, we're in government.
Right?
This is
I know.
amazing. And then walk us through it because I think for a lot of the audience, some of them know exactly who you are. Others confuse you with a country music singer. They're like, is that
Really?
Dean? No, no. I'm like, no, not Dean
Yeah.
Brodie. Um, Walk us through this story. I would really like to hear it in your words on how you step on the landmine and then the onslaught ever since.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So yeah, the I was attorney general critic, one of two attorney general critics for the Conservative Party, given my legal background and so on. And a story broke in BC about the Law Society, and there's a lot of detail to it, but here's the overview. The Law Society of British Columbia had started a Indigenous awareness course that started some few years ago, I guess, that was made mandatory for lawyers in BC. And so every lawyer has to take this course. So there's a lawyer in British Columbia, a man named Jim Heller, and another lawyer named Mark Barry, who were taking the course. And in the course, there was reference to the burial sites of the Kamloops, former Kamloops residential school. And in many different areas that the burial site has not produced, there've been no remains found. And so in the course, they were still referring to this grave site, and these lawyers wrote to the Law Society and said, hey, you've got to correct this, because even the Court of Appeal of BC, the Chief Justice, has said that there have been no bodies found. And this fellow, and so basically he wrote to the Law Society, no answer, no answer. Then he decided to push it further at the AGM of the Law Society and asked for a resolution on this. And it became a very hotly contested matter. And in the course of that, the lawyer was referred to as a racist and a denialist by First Nations leadership group out here in a sort of a press release or type of document. This whole story is online, and ultimately the lawyer decided to sue for defamation against the Law Society of British Columbia. As far as I know, I think that's a first, that the Law Society has defamed one of its own members or is alleged to have defamed one of its members. The matter is currently in litigation. And so when this happened, I said that the Law Society, I did a post about this matter, and boom, I got just buried for this. And even though I had had approval from my own party to post something on X about this, there was some people in the party that were very upset and wanted me to take it down. And this is where it all started. And I didn't take it down because what I had done was true. And, I believe that facts matter, and particularly at the Law Society of British Columbia, that we have to have facts, at least in a course at the Law Society of BC, a fact that has already been confirmed by the Supreme Court of BC and the Court of Appeal of BC. So that's where the problem came. And I've been called these, called the same names as the other lawyer. And this is where I'm at. And the thing escalated. And then I did an interview, and I spoke with a tone that offended, and then it just ballooned from there. And that's where I'm at. So now I'm sitting as an independent, and there are two other people who left the party to join me, and it's been an interesting ride. That's about it.
The video of you that they clipped, and you go, the tone offended.
Yeah.
Um, it reminds me, as a younger guy, I remember watching, and forgive me if you're not a sports fan, but I remember watching this famous clip of Allen Iverson. Practice? Talking about practice? Anyways,
Yeah.
forgive my my
Well, that's
I'm
okay.
not a great voiceover actor.
No, it's okay.
Regardless, most people recall that. What most people don't do is go watch. I forget if it's 20 minutes, if it's a half an hour. It's a long term. If it's 10 minutes, it doesn't matter. They ask him about the same question about 18 times until he absolutely breaks. And anyways, then they clip it. Then it comes out and they smear this thing over who Allen Iverson is. And I'm not sitting here trying to explain who Allen Iverson is. Go watch it all. Right? There's been a documentary done on the thing, for Pete's sake. But when I saw your clip, my first thought on my side of things is, where's the entire video? I want to watch the entire video before I judge anything, right? Because I want to see it in its context. Because so much on this side, of what we do on this side, if we bring you on, we put out a long form interview so people can hear your thoughts. And whenever they slander somebody and they take, well, I don't even know, was that 4 seconds? Was it 3 seconds? It's pretty freaking short.
And they clipped it to put it even tighter and tighter to make me look. I mean, yeah, not a good look. I don't like it either. I was going, wow. And when someone said I had mocked someone, I'm like, I had no idea what they were talking about at first. I really had no idea, because really I was mocking this, not individuals. I was mocking what I considered to be this postmodern cultural wokeism, where everybody's story has the same truth or validity to it as each other one. And of course, this is not true. Um, you can say something is how you see it, but if the facts are different, then the facts are the facts. And I just don't know how we function as a society if we can't agree on certain truths that are there. And the truth right now is that no bodies have been found at the Kamloops grave. And that's all I was referring to. To say that I was referring to children who had been abused is just so shocking to me, and such an incredible contortion of what I was actually speaking about. But this is a dirty game, politics. I'm learning a lot. It's a nasty, dirty game. And when they want to take you out, they'll find a way to take you out. And I'm not perfect. I don't say everything perfectly, but I'm real and I'm a person, and I'm not trying to be some perfectly scripted robot. And so I just have to live with what they did, and that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, right? So I'll be judged by my character as I go through and continue working, and that's how I've always functioned. I can't worry about what's happened. I'm right now, I'm focused straight ahead on the work that needs to happen. There are a lot of issues that are not being discussed because of this very reason. People are so afraid to speak about certain things now for fear of being called a racist, or in Canada now, it's a denialist, or a phobe of some sort. And this is literally a way of stopping people from speaking. And it's working because everybody gets scared. And I refuse to live scared. And, I will be a real person. And if I don't get reelected, I don't get reelected, but I'm going to do the work. And I have a lot of support. Some people are angry for sure, but I think it's because it was definitely misconstrued. But there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, it's I guess I'm curious your thoughts, because like here in Canada, I was just literally having a conversation earlier today about this, and like I was saying, I'm not nervous to talk to Dallas whatsoever. This is what I do on this side of the things, right? I bring on people that are like, I really enjoy having people that are taken completely out of context and allowing them to share their actual thoughts and what they're actually going through, and try and explain what's going on, instead of how legacy media or mainstream media or corporate media or whatever we're going to call it, regime media is treating
Yeah.
people. Because we've seen it, like I went through COVID. I can see how a story can be taken out of context
Oh,
real
yeah.
freaking quick. I think a lot of people can see that. But I still said this morning, I'm like, oh man, First Nations. It's just like,
Yeah.
if there's I don't know the right way to say this, so forgive me, folks, but I don't know. Is it the holy grail of like things you're just not supposed to talk about? And I don't know if the holy grail you're supposed to talk about or not talk about. Forgive me on that. I just mean like it's one of these landmine issues where it's just like it's all settled. We abused First Nations, and that's that. And yet the 215 graves thing. I mean, it was what 2021 came out, just rocketed across
I
the
know.
the atmosphere of like this is bad, blah 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 blah. Then they give them a bunch of money, and then nobody knows where it went. And then it comes out later that wait a second, we actually didn't. They're anomalies now. They're not actually graves, and a whole bunch. And yet nobody cares about that. And I was sitting there talking this morning. I'm like, I know it's such an important conversation. It's just like the Canadian public, and I'm not talking about my audience. I'm talking about the general audience, the general population is already, I don't know, uh, got their bingo card marked check. We've talked about that, and they moved on, and yet here we are having an MLA, sitting MLA, kicked out of her party for talking about something that actually sounds really serious when I think about it. Right, like you're teaching a lie to lawyers, and all you wanted
Correct.
it was to be done was just change. Let's just update it that none of them have been found. That's that's all that you're at. The lawyer was asking for, correct?
Correct. He wanted the word potential added in front of burial grounds and then something removed that said 215 bodies had been found. So it was removal of those words at the end of the paragraph and adding the word, it was either potential or potential was the word he wanted added, and they would not budge. And I actually don't understand this because I personally think that, well, it's better to just say what the truth is because I think it actually damages the bigger story even more, which about the harms, because then people go, okay, well, just a second here now. And this story did impact Canada a lot. Uh, it was like a bomb blast, and the flags were at half mast, and people forget that churches were burned as a
Lots
result of this
lots
story.
of
A
churches were
lot of
burned.
churches, I think there were 80 actually burned to the ground, and another couple of dozen uh, vandalized and damaged. And I believe our former prime minister even said it's understandable that they're burning the churches. And I don't know when we would ever say that about any other, the burning down of religious institutions. It's understandable. No, it's against the law, and charges should have been laid and things should have been followed up. And, you know, but that's what happened. And then, the United Nations labeled us a genocidal country. And then UNDRIP came rolling down, and then DRIPA was adopted in BC, or DRIPA was passed. Those were all sort of upshots of this event. And even the band itself has admitted that they're anomalies. So I don't know. I don't understand the issue here. Let's just say there was a
So
mistake
let
made
me
and
let me
move
let
on.
me let me ask you something then. What do you think this says? I don't even know. Is it the state of Canada? Is it the state of BC? Is it politics? I take it however you want. I'm like, this seems like it honestly feels like COVID all over again, just in a different way. And this has probably been going on for a lot longer than Shaun's been paying attention. But like when I hear you talk about it, I'm like, okay, so, and forgive me, my ears, audience, maybe you heard something different. I don't hear that nobody was a victim or hurt or et cetera, of the residential school system. What the lawyer was saying was we need to caution what we're saying as fact. We should put potential there because nothing has been found. And
Correct.
because of that, all hullabaloo has
Yes.
blown up, forgive me. And so now I'm like, okay, so there's a whole bunch of us sitting here watching, listening, seeing your stuff come out, going, what is going on? Where do you think this puts us? Like what is the state of Canada right now when we can't even put potential? We can't even like if you talk out about certain subject. No. That is like kryptonite, don't touch it. or nuclear or whatever term you want to put. Where does down? Because you're inside. Forgive me, a bit of the beast right now.
Yes.
Where do you think the state of Canada is?
Okay, so let's pick a couple of other sacred cow issues in Canada. We've also got, we're not allowed to talk about the idea of private healthcare living alongside our public healthcare. That's another one. Any politician says that, they're done. Like just you say that in a political campaign, the media will go crazy. You'll be doomed. There are several topics in Canada, and it's like, for example, I know people who have suffered vaccine injuries, okay? Like I have a constituent family that all of them are permanently damaged, and they were eager to get the vaccines at first. And I'm not saying everybody got sick, but these people, they're permanently impaired, and they've had to go to the United States to get help because they couldn't get help here. So do you think anybody wants to say that in the legislature anywhere? What do you think is going to happen to you? What do you and what I've seen is that you go into politics and you think that you're going to be able to go ahead and start talking about the things that you campaigned on. And I always used to wonder, how come they say they're going to do that and then they get in there and then they don't do it? Well, what happens is you get in there and people want to get along with each other, and there becomes they sort of clip your wings on each end of the spectrum, and on issues like, oh God, don't touch that one, don't touch that one, don't touch that one, because I think it really is the media, like I call them media assassins. They sort of come after you and you're just blown up. And the hysteria that develops around the honest discussion scares the heck out of people. And they're just normal people, and they can't believe what's come down on them. I mean, this hasn't been pleasant for me. I'm strong, and it's tough to break me, but I'm not going to say it's been pleasant. And but I know that truth is important, and I'm just sticking by that. And but I can see the desire to get along, to go along within the party, and it's very hard to resist the pressure that comes down on you. It's incredible pressure. And everybody's saying, if you say that, you're going to hurt all of us. And so it's a real thing. And, we've all seen certain politicians who have really stuck their necks out to try and do the right thing. And we see it, some in the States, some up here around the world. It's hard to be that person. The pressure to conform is like this 900-pound gorilla, and it's brutal. And, you literally go to an event and people don't want to be seen near you because, oh, you're that person. And so now you're sitting alone at the dinner. You get iced out.
I shouldn't laugh.
No, but it's true. It is kind of laughable because it sounds sort of like elementary school.
It does, and yet I think about it, and I'm like, yet the ones that sit beside you, the strength of those relationships grow, right? Because I mean, the people who get it. I laughed more from like just thinking back on some memories of my own, where you go from. I've shared this a little bit, like once upon a time, I was pretty just like, I don't even know, popular. Like you walked in a room, nobody stayed away from you. And now I can walk in a room and people still to this day won't look you in the eye. It's such a weird sensation. I'm like,
yes,
really? Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, and I now lean into faith, like the spiritual side of things. That is an attack on your soul, whether they realize they're doing it or not. It's just like it's a very personal sensation to watch somebody avoid eye contact and know they do not want to be around you. They're uncomfortable with your presence, and that is something. Like when you think about what you just talked about, I'm like, I mean, come on, we're better than that, aren't we? And yet, I think a lot of us are sitting around the table going, how do we undo this? How do we get to where Canada isn't canceling politicians for just bringing up an inconvenient truth, which is we want the word potential in front. Like what lawyers are under is an attack, and we need them to stand up for us in the rule of law. And yet, like if the truth doesn't matter, well, what's going to happen when the whole point of their occupation is to get to the truth? I don't know.
And so
Maybe I'm just spinning my tires here.
no, but that is the piece that really bothered me about this the most. It's about the truth. And if we can't have truth at the Law Society, then I don't know where we're headed, frankly. And I don't actually know what the force is behind pushing this to not just add the word potential. The band has said it, the Chief Justice of British Columbia has said it, and yet now they've got a defamation case against them. He's filed a notice of claim, and they've responded. Now, response to response, and they're not backing down. And it's really, what are we doing here? And so there must be a lot riding on this. That's all I can say. I'm not quite sure yet what is riding on all of this, but I've certainly been tackled. And of course, a group in BC called the First Nations Leadership Council wanted people like me to be imprisoned. I guess you saw that too.
Yes, I did.
I mean, this is incredible.
Was that, walk me through that. Was that right off the hop, or was that as you continued to talk about it?
Well, it was all happened pretty quickly. And when I got up in the ledge last week and said that, oh no, it was before last week. It was all sort of balled together, and the pressure they were trying. I feel like the groups that have some kind of vested interest in this were pushing on me, and they weren't getting anywhere. So they pushed now to have this. There's a federal MP that's proposed a private member's bill or something about imprisoning people for what's called residential school denialism. And they were saying that they made a press release using my name like 3 times in this press release, that we need to speed up this bill so that this goes through, and it's calling for prison time for people who engage in residential school denialism, which, by the way, I have never done. And yet my name, they repeated. And so I got in the ledge last week and pushed back and said, I wanted this group defunded for pushing people for stating true facts in Canada. And of course, then they came back and said I exaggerated what they said or something like that. I'm like, no, I didn't. You used my name 3 times. You're obviously suggesting that people like me should be imprisoned. And so I don't think you can walk that back. And I'm very concerned that speech is going to be criminalized. This is not a good direction. We already have hate speech laws in the Criminal Code of Canada, and they should be adequate to cover anything that wanders into the zone of hate speech, which is inciting violence against a group, or you can see the terms in the criminal code.
You pretty much answered, I think, where I wanted to go next, and that was, where do you think this could lead us? And when you say, free speech could be criminalized, I just go back to literally the word potential. I'm like, this can't be over something so small. And yet you've said a couple of things that have really my ears have picked up on. One is, like, I was going to lead with where could this lead us to? Where does your mind take you? And you go to the criminalization of free speech, I think. I don't want to put words in your mouth. The next thing is you said something along the lines is you don't know what it is that's really important. But you said 2 things that I think probably maybe go in there, and UNDRIP's one of them. And then you mentioned a second one that I don't think I've ever heard of, and that was DRIPA. What is DRIPA?
The UNDRIP was the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. And then in British Columbia, they passed a law called the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act. And they brought the UN
doctrine into British
BC, and it now applies. So it's sitting here in BC.
And
our party, by the way, ran on a policy statement that said we were going to repeal DRIPA, which was the British Columbia version of the United Nations document, essentially.
Which roughly states what, Dallas, if you could just summarize it?
Well, it's an easily read document, but it's basically, it's for Indigenous peoples around the world. It says we get the right to live autonomously, self-determination, according to all of the ways we want to live. Plus, we get everything that you have at the top level that you have it. So it's a document that just says, um, when I was reading it, it basically just it's a granting of rights and expectations, aspirations, and to indigenous peoples. The UN one is around the world, and it's about land, it's about money, it's about healthcare, it's about a lot of things. It's worth reading it actually, and so it's sort of overlying laws that are being passed in BC now because things need to be done in coordination with that declaration. So anything that gets passed now has to comply with DRIPA. I'm probably mashing this up a little bit, but that's basically my understanding of how it
Well,
works.
and I think for the audience, knowing my audience, which it's fantastic, I think we just, a whole bunch of us need to just go read Drippa. I mean, it's sitting there for us to go, and I can already feel my phone about to be start buzzing because I know already a bunch of people have, and they're like, Shaun, you need to read this, and I'll be like, yes, yes, I do. So, I think that's what I take from it. I'm not. Don't worry. I mean, the haters. The people who dislike you are going to point out that you don't know whatever, but the people on this side are just like, oh, that's something we should go look into because Undrip, completely understand, and I just didn't realize that Drippa was the BC version, which I guess I'd never heard the word said that way, and so I'm now I'm gonna have to go back and take a look. But either way, when you talk about, it's important to them. I guess I before I let you out of here, I am kind of curious. Your party ran, the Conservatives ran on, okay, we're going to repeal this. We're going to get back to conservative values and all that jazz. Was there zero support then when it came to this? Like, did Rustad just like, nope? And I don't mean to pull you into a squabble or anything. Just, I am kind of curious, right? I mean, it's not like the Conservative Party has been there for 50 years and, like we're going to vent. It's like you kind of got in on being a raucous group. You kind of got in on being, we're going to destabilize the status quo in BC. I mean, here in the last little bit, the carbon tax and I can imagine being a BC resident who'd had that for what, like 17 years, and all of a sudden the carbon tax, aren't we saving the planet? Thought we're saving the planet. And
Right.
for the Conservatives to come in and be like, we're gonna challenge the status quo, and then as soon as you're challenging the status quo, oh by the way, you're out.
It was painful, I have to tell you, because I thought that's what we were supposed to be. And I was being what I thought I had been sent here to be. This isn't about being against Indigenous people. It's not against all of that, but people want a return to truth and they want facts and they don't like this relativism that's developing and woke culture saying, well, just because I believe I'm something, then I am. And or it's we people are wanting truth and they know when something's amiss. And I really felt that I was sent here to do a job, and I thought I was doing my job as the AG critic, and I was putting it to the Attorney General for David Eby's government, Nikki Sharma, saying, "You need to deal with this, Nikki. You need to look at this because this is serious. This is the Law Society. This isn't just some little tiny case somewhere in Nowheresville. This is the governing body of lawyers in British Columbia." And so for me, it was super important, and I felt that and I felt I was doing my job. And they said that I got ultimately pushed out because I was my tone of voice, and wow, okay, that is just not true. Why I was pushed out? They used that to just dirty me up to send me out the door because I had to go. I was becoming a problem for certain people within the party who are certainly not as conservative as there are a bunch of us who are quite conservative, and then there's a group that's not as conservative. And so that's what's happened.
Any final thoughts before I let you out of here for the audience that's tuned in? I don't want to cut you short by any stretch of the imagination,
Okay.
but feel free. If you got something off the top of your mind that you want people to know, Dallas, please feel free to fire away.
Uh, I just, I'm a honest person, new to politics. I thought I was doing my job and and I was, and I will continue to do my job and work and go ahead. And I've got a really good team of people now. We're working and we've got work ahead of us. And truthfully, it's been liberating to be released from the shackles of that kind of control that doesn't allow you to do the work you were sent here to do. So in many ways, I'm feeling much better, happier, freer to speak truthfully, responsibly, and move forward as someone who's going to tackle the hard issues. And it won't be pleasant at all on any of these issues, but if we don't start talking about them, we're going to be down to a zone of only being able to talk about, let's say, fentanyl. That's the only thing we can complain about now is fentanyl on the streets, and that's the only topic that's within the zone. And then, that's we've got to be able to talk about everything. And particularly when the amount of money being spent on a file like this, Canadians have a right to talk about it, just like they have a right to talk about the healthcare delivery system we have and other really hot topics in Canada. And I hope that we break through this time and we can start talking again about and having really open debates, fierce debates, strong debates on all sides. And people shouldn't be afraid to speak what they want to say. I'm not talking about being hateful. I'm talking about debates on issues that involve a lot of money, taxpayers' money that are going towards these programs, and we need to talk about it.
Yeah,
So,
one can hope that I hope we can get there. I really hope in Canada we can get there to where we're having fierce debates. But I listened to the word potential causing absolute stir of ousting. Not even the person who penned it, but the person who's an elected official and supposed to stand up for different things, not to mention a lawyer and everything else. I'm like, I don't know. Like I just see us drifting. Maybe I'm wrong. We got an election coming, a federal election coming here in 20 days essentially. And you wonder which direction we're going to take as a country that way. I remember following along. We did live election coverage for BC, and the Conservatives came out of absolutely nowhere to be, official opposition and almost win it. And there's some things there that look like you may have won it. And
yeah,
there's a reason why I think, at
yes,
least in my mind, maybe you're the lady who ran for him for Pete's sake. Like in my mind, there's a lot of people looking for something in politics now. They want it. And then when it starts to show themselves, the opposition comes down hard and we're really making their weight felt. I mean, that's how your name gets across my desk. Is I
yep.
read the stories and I go, this is wild. The playbook is just over and over again. Either way, thank you for coming on. I won't hold you any longer. I appreciate you coming on and doing this.
Okay, thank you, Shaun. I'd love to stay longer, but it looks like I got to get back into the chamber and get back
No,
in.
keep doing what you're doing. Thanks again for hopping on.
Thank you very much, and I'll talk anytime.